Oh, yes.
So what are you guys going to be drinking?
We're staying down in Fremont.
Oh. So you're going to be water.
Yeah. We'll be in bed by 9.
That's for babies.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
That's older people.
We average about 16 hours a day at work, so
Yeah.
that's fine. That's fine.
Hello, mic test. Got it. Testing 1, 2, 3.
It's a little heavier.
My system's a little different. Okay. So test on her. Test.
Test. Can you hear me? Can you hear something? Buffalo horses and blue ties. That's all it is.
Gentlemen, Arielle TV will be getting ready soon, so silence. Now say something.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
Roll and smoke. Roll and smoke everybody.
Sounds like very teeny.
Hello, mic test. Line producer.
Line producer, we need quiet on set, please. Quiet on set.
Line producer undershirt. Let's so and
And the rover
producer Denise got into silence.
Look out.
You have a new job. Having with you today. That's what line producer.
Alright. I don't know, you two we just right?
Alright, guys, just give me a cue. Hi, this is Arielle Live TV, live inside the Rollies Food Barbecue at 3185 South Highland in Las Vegas, Nevada. And I was so excited. We have a wonderful guest today, and of course, my beautiful co-host, daughter, Denise, Mraz. First, I would like to introduce our lovely Sheriff Jesse Watts from Eureka. And I want to go there. I never been there. I heard it's beautiful. I think it's a lonely place. I don't want to be lonely, but let's go. What do you think? It's a lonely place. I don't want to be lonely. I want to be happy.
We're the friendliest place on the loneliest highway.
All right, let's bring Jesse Watts. Jesse Watts. Who is he? A fighter, a dreamer, not even scared to anybody. Maybe a big bulldog. I don't know how you consider him. What do you think, Denise?
Well, what I love about Jesse is that he'll just tell you how it is. You know, it's kind of like you get past that stage in life where you really care about what people think, and you're just here for the Constitution. You're here to make it right, and we only have 24 hours in a day. But I love your straightforward approach to everything.
Let's say, Jesse, you started when you were young. How old were you when you dreamed to become a sheriff?
I wanted to be
Changed until today.
correct.
So, how did you reach to become a sheriff? I know you've been running and you just won June 12th.
June 12th, 2018. So I did not ever have ambitions to be a sheriff or a chief. I still love to be the guy out in the field, you know, writing the tickets and making the traffic stops and making the arrests. And, I still love that, and I never wanted to become a department at all. But the community that I serve asked me, and I ran, and I was successful. So,
You're originally from Oregon.
yes.
That's my ex came from.
Okay.
Portland, Oregon, my daughter. And also you are serving also the community before you become a deputy sheriff.
Yeah, I was a deputy in Eureka before I became a chief. Yes.
Let's see. Let's go to the main action today. I've been reading what you are been writing to the governor. This is the most action because let's talk about this.
Red flag gun laws.
Yes, the red flag handle. Why did you come up with this? Are you not afraid to them? Maybe there's a consequences?
There's consequences to anything. I mean, that's inevitable. Whether we have the law or we don't have the law, there's going to be consequences regardless. The reason I'm taking the stand I am is because the Constitution is what we should go. That is the foundation of us as a society. And remember that the Constitution wasn't written to limit the power of the people. The Constitution was written to limit the power of the government. And it's our duty as a society to hold them to that. Furthermore, it's my citizens and the people I serve's rights and ability to hold me accountable. Because I'm the government. You know, I am part of the whole thing. But I was raised by my grandparents, like I told you, and very old values, very traditional values. And I come from a long line in history of military serving, you know, the citizens of the United States.
So you had a good dose of the Constitution growing up?
I did have a gift for the Constitution. My dad made me know the Constitution.
Which is so rare to get.
It is. It's a sad state we're in America because they don't teach it anymore. In schools or just general parenting, don't teach it. I do the same thing. I do something.
That's awesome.
So let's go back and let's focus on this one. You're fighting for EB 291, I'm sorry. And you're mentioning here violated the first and second and fourth and fifth and sixth and eighth amendment.
Correct. And
Explain that.
so, as I said earlier, the Second Amendment is the defender of the Constitution. And the reason it's the second is because if the first one doesn't work, you've got something to defend it with. Period. I believe it violates first, second, fourth, fifth, sixth, and eighth, and quite honestly, you can even push and say the 14th Amendment. First Amendment, freedom of speech. I say something to you, we're in a dating relationship, and I just had a bad day, and I make a statement. You interpret that I'm going to harm myself. You can go without any due process and have my gun rights taken. That violates the Fourth Amendment. Because then, that judge who did no investigation just reads your side of the story, signs this extreme risk protection order, and then that judge orders me as the sheriff to go into your house and take my guns, or take your husband's guns, your boyfriend's guns.
And you are about authority, right?
Correct.
What about if you become a civilian and you still have that gun, but you are already retired as a civilian? Can they take away your gun?
Yeah. And by this law, anybody's guns are up for grabs.
And then try to get it back.
And this is the thing, is there's case law out there, a recent case law out of Nevada, last September, State v. Anderson, that states that your Second Amendment rights are a God-given right,
Yes.
and a very important right, that you can't take it away without a jury trial. And
Right to due process.
a due process, and the fact of the matter is there's no due process in AB 291. It's hearsay. It's, in my opinion, it is a gun-grabbing bill. It's a quick way to get in your house. I'll tell you right now, it's not going to happen.
But you already signed the bill.
You already signed the bill. Great, absolutely.
But you're not going to enforce it.
No, and this is the thing. It's, cops and society is held accountable for what they do, not necessarily what they don't do. And we have discretion in a lot of laws. There's certain laws that are on the books that say you shall arrest. There's certain laws on the books that don't say.
Or say you may.
Yep, and I have a lot of discretion in enforcing that stop sign ticket, or writing that speeding ticket, or whatever. But there's very few laws on the books that say shall. This is no different. This one doesn't say shall. Furthermore, a judge who does no investigation who has no knowledge of the second half, signs this order, I can fight that order. I can go and ask the judge to squash that order on basis of no due process, basis of other things. And it was said last week in a meeting, in a county commission meeting in Elko, by their DA, and it was phenomenal stance. Regardless of the constitutionality of the law and those dynamics, nobody in that legislative building in Carson City thought of me, thought of my undersheriff, thought of 3,500 men and women of the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, or the other law enforcement in the state. Because I'm ultimately going to have to go through that door to get those guns.
How many people that you think behind this fight you're doing? How many people?
A lot. And I say this, I probably can't quantify it accurately. I'm just going to say a lot. I've gotten countless emails, phone calls, text messages, Facebook messages, everything you can think of.
How many counties are we in?
Several. So right now, it is Eureka County, Elko County, Pershing County. I'm not 100% sure if Humboldt County is actually on board. I spoke with a couple of the other sheriffs yesterday at one of our meetings, and there's other counties that have written resolutions to support it, but they're not joining the lawsuit itself. But there's quite a few. But the bigger thing is, it's all of our voices.
Yes.
You know, the first three words of the Constitution. We the people. And it's our voice. Whether you're an elected official, media, or just a Joe Blow citizen. It is our voice. Because the government works for us.
You absolutely do. And if we don't limit them, no one will.
Right.
And it's our duty to limit them.
Correct. So what do you think about the Virginia now, since this law has been approved?
Well,
I
I think the rally was awesome. And I say this because it was peaceful. They cleaned up after themselves.
Yeah, there was enough.
There was not a single arrest. They went through right afterwards and literally picked up their own trash. The ones that took guns stood there, were respectful, peaceful, the whole 9 yards. You flip side, okay? Antifa. Antifa goes down Portland, Oregon, breaking windows, breaking cars, assaulting each other,
Chaos.
assaulting cops, rioting and chaos.
Can we be charged as criminals?
Absolutely, they can be charged. Spineless leadership of police departments, stop it. And mayors and chiefs or agencies that subservient to the mayor or to the county board or to anybody. Right is right, wrong is wrong. And Antifa or those groups that go through and do those things should be 100% held accountable.
Well, I think that's why you've got so many supporters, because you're a sheriff, not a politician.
Right.
And people love that you're standing up and that you're articulating why. Because that's missing, you know, the articulations. And people understand, well, you know, gun laws are my right, but now you're articulating exactly why. And I think that's why you have so much support.
Well, I'm just going to correct one thing you said. Gun laws are not.
They're your endowed liberty. Absolutely.
Well, gun laws. There's argument there that gun laws, every single one of them are an infringement on the Second Amendment.
That's true.
My friend,
Articulation. You gotta fight it, you gotta articulate it.
Yes.
That's it.
my friend in Arizona, she's watching right now. She said she will not give up the right for gun
Absolutely not.
and sell the weapon. So in my situation, you're being single, and of course, you know, you mentioned about quarrel, fighting. So that means someone can actually report me because I'm like an abusive or I say something
Right.
that you did not like.
Right.
And then if they find out that I have a gun, they can take away the gun just because of that.
Just because of that. So, I said this earlier, but the same people who report your comment on a Facebook post are the same people that can take your gun rights away.
Wow.
Because they're offended. Because they don't like what you say. Because they feel that you're a harm to yourself or someone else. There's a lot of laws on the books already.
Too many.
There's a lot of laws on the books already that can do the same process without infringing on the rights the way they are.
Do you think Sue will have a run?
Say that word.
Do you think Sue will have a run with this red flag ban law?
We need to, and I say this because Arizona, New Mexico, and us are all fighting this fight right now. New Mexico is going through the legislative process right now for the red flag law, and the bill passed. The Senate is going to the House. It went through the Judiciary Committee at 5 p.m. and never took public comment.
Wow.
It's no different than 291. 291's original bill was not a red flag law. This was an after effect. And the dirty politicians of Carson City that do the dirty politic work and start with a bill and change it, and push it through the last minute. That's the problem that we have to stand against. And our voice.
Or they put language in there. So I'll give you another example. I've got a nonprofit, but somebody gave me something to raffle off at an event that I was hosting. I can go ahead and raffle, do a 50-50, but now there's a new law. So it was built for the Las Vegas Knights, right? The hockey team. They were only allowed to fundraise up to $15,000. They took it to the legislature and they said, sure, we can increase it, no problem. Well, they slipped in a little bit of language that now makes, if you do a raffle at your garage sale, any kind of casual raffle that's not conducted by a nonprofit is illegal and can be a misdemeanor, right? And then a gross misdemeanor the second time. You can't raise a single shiny penny unless you're a 501c3 or 4 on a raffle, 50-50. I mean, this is, Grandma's Quilting Club, a lemonade stands. It affects everybody.
Sure. Thank you so much for that, Denise. If your face take over our life.
Yep.
We are live around the world. We are live local. We are live to all the social media now. What are you going to say since you are here on this topic?
Well, he refuses to have any interaction with me.
Oh.
I wrote him a letter last year and he didn't respond. I wrote him this letter, he's refused to respond. I saw him in person here in Las Vegas at the opioid summit, and I purposely made it a point to go up to him and introduce myself and say hello to him, and he made sure to brush me off as fast as he could. He came to my county and toured our gold mines and had a dinner that night, and it was all about Elko County. Elko County. The gold mines are in Eureka County, not Elko County.
He never
And
mentioned you.
Never mentioned us, but furthermore, his staff never called us, told us he was coming. They called the next county over. They didn't call us.
Yeah.
I'll-
Blackballed.
Well, and let him blackball me. Guess what? I don't work for him. I work for the people of my county, and
I find that.
that's who I am going to represent. That's who I am going to support, and that's who I'm here for, fighting this fight, because I'm their voice. They voted for me to be their voice, and that's exactly what I'm doing.
I become interested in it when I read it. I said, wow, I need to be the sheriff. I want to have this type of people that actually can protect and fight for our rights. How far can we go to this red ban?
Well, we're fighting it, the legal process, and going through and suing the governor's office or the governor himself and the state of Nevada as an injunction to stop this. And that's ultimately where it's going to go. Is the Supreme Court, I think, will read it or will hear it, because it has to go through the appellate and then to the Supreme Court. But I think the Supreme Court will ultimately end up hearing this, and they'll make the determination, whether it's constitutional or not. But based on a lot of research, a lot of years of seeing things, I can't see how they won't find it unconstitutional. Like I said earlier, State v. Anderson is a very valid case in the Nevada Supreme Court that states they can't take your guns without a jury trial. How are they taking your guns without any due process or any part of you hearing, the judge hearing your side of the story? We are innocent until proven guilty in society.
Correct.
not guilty until proven innocent.
Correct.
Well, I think one reason that this bill had kind of easy time passing was that there's such an emphasis on mental wellness versus mental illness.
No, this bill passed easily because they grandstanded on a tragedy.
Oh,
And I said that in my letter. 1 October was a tragic event for this world, for America, for the state of Nevada, but greater for Las Vegas. They grandstanded on that law, or on that event, to make this law happen. Because if somebody would have said something about the shooter, he wouldn't have guns. Well, after a 2-year investigation, there's no
and
motive.
a two-page after action report, which
there's
was
no-
the shortest one on the planet.
There's no motive.
Right.
There was no red flags. There was no mental health history. There was nothing. So this wouldn't have changed a single thing.
Well, according to that lady, when Governor Cecil signed that bill, because of what happened in 91,
Road 91?
yeah, Route 91, I think that's also, they base into that.
Absolutely.
And why they have to base into that? Almost every single day, people are dying because of the guns.
So here's part of that. We don't have a gun violence problem in America. We have a violence problem. And I say this, they don't ask you, let me back up. They don't talk about the car in a DUI. Somebody goes down the street, drunk driving, and they plow into a family and kill the family. It's not the car's fault. It's the person's fault. They always put their face on it. So-and-so arrested for vehicular manslaughter, DUI related, yada, yada, yada. Doesn't matter what he was driving, right? It was the action. Guns are no different. They sit there and say, guns kill people. Yeah, they do, okay? But it's an implement in that process. If I laid my gun down right here on the table, and we walked, every one of us, don't touch it, that thing's not going to go off on its own. It's the mental ideation from the person holding that device that is ultimately what happens.
It's definitely a hard
Gun-
problem.
Gun violence problems, and this is the bigger problem, is they count suicide in gun violence, and that's over 60% of deaths by a gun is suicides. Whether that person had a gun or not, that ideation is there. Whether they're going to jump off a bridge, whether they're going to cut their wrist, whether they're going to take pills, whether they're going to drown themselves, hang themselves, whatever. That ideation is there. The gun's not the problem.
What's the problem? Who's the problem?
It's not whose, and it's a heart problem. It's a society that's changed problem. A sheriff from Spokane, Washington, said it great years ago in a press conference. There was a shooting up there, and he said, awesome speech. The gun hasn't changed. The musket has not changed. Yeah, new design, more bullets, the whole 9 yards. Great. The musket hasn't changed. That concept hasn't changed. In all the years that guns have been made, it hasn't changed. The heart and minds of people have changed.
Yes.
And the people that are victimizing society or victimizing anybody, they don't have to have a gun to victimize them. How many assaults a year do we have with hammers and clubs and rocks and hands?
David Flag, famous rock.
But we don't have, and it's not the gun's problem. It's not the gun's fault. Period.
It's the mind's fault.
It's the minds and the hearts of people that has changed. So that we as society have
Look
changed.
at problem resolution, right? Instead of talking things through. We've taught our kids by eliminating the Socratic method to not how to think or how to reason. We tell them what to think and not to reason. And it's a whole indoctrination system in our schools, so we've got to change that.
Correct. Sharon, it's been going on that the people still hate the military, the police, especially police. Just happened to police that killed police. What do you think about that? Why they still hate you guys? How about that? Just you guys.
I will
Why do you
say,
think it's that? Are you guys still think that there's a discrimination, there's some bias, because that's what is, they're still voting and they're still thinking about.
So no, and I took it off for the show, but my body cam's sitting right up there. And body cams in Nevada came because of knee-jerk reaction. But I think that the us versus them is not actually an us versus them. We deal with a very small slice of society, a greater majority of society. Overall, society actually, in my process, or my thought process, I think society is very supportive of law enforcement. The difference is, like I said, we deal with a very small slice of society for a very majority of the time. We go to the same house, the whole 9 yards. The war on law enforcement, and I'm going to call it that, is driven by false media. Donald Trump says it best: fake news, lies, and push from the groups that feel that they've been victim of something. Black Lives Matter. They sat there and grandstanded and made millions of dollars, and hands up, don't shoot was a lie. Was a lie. The DOJ report in Ferguson, Missouri, hands up, don't shoot. How many times did you hear that after Ferguson, Missouri? Proved. Every witness, over 100 witnesses said he didn't have his hands up. He was lunging at the officer. There was one witness that said he had his hands up. Do you know who that witness was?
Oh, he's probably progressive.
Jesse Jackson.
That witness was the co-defendant in the armed robbery that the subject had just completed. So
Wow.
it's not a war. It's not us versus them. I do feel that we are very supportive. I'm very fortunate. I work in a community that supports me tremendously, supports my staff tremendously, brings us, we get waves with all 5 fingers every day as we're passing people.
Well, let me tell you a little bit about my story. And I do believe sometimes the police are using their force. And let me tell you, I'm driving in Hamburg along Highway 15 from Montana to Washington to that route. Police highway patrol pulled me over in Montana. You know what his question to me? How did I get my number? Imagine that. I said, why did you pull me over? Just because I'm driving a Hummer and I'm Asian. So that's triggered me also, but I never put a big deal on that one because he is probably a father, have children, and probably he's bored in a highway just to pull over someone. That's his question to me. How did I get the Hummer?
So why they pulled you over?
I don't know. I'm not even, I have my mom there,
But
my
here's
children.
what for you. There, as I said earlier,
I'm not-
there's a lot of laws in the books.
I'm following the rules because I have my children, I have my Lucia, I have my mother, I have my nieces. We're just, driving around, from Washington.
I get that, but what I'm saying is there's a lot of laws in the books. A lot of people don't know. Period. And
No, I'm not arguing about that. I'm just also indicating some police force are using
Their power?
Their power. Some, not all. Okay, some of them.
Paul Harvey said it best.
Yes, but
Okay.
some of them, but not all of them.
No.
I'm just saying this.
But Paul Harvey said it best. Okay. The bad apples are in every profession. Doesn't matter what profession it is. Paul Harvey said it the absolute best I can ever remember. And it is the fact that less than a percentage of law enforcement in society are bad. And our percentage is better than clergymen. How many preachers and pastors are indicted yearly for criminal acts against children, against members of their congregation, financial fraud, etc., etc.? You find me a profession that's perfect, I'll buy you lunch.
I love seafood.
You find me a profession, You find a profession
Well,
that's
I
perfect.
mean, I love police force because we are your protection, but sometimes there's still, I think there's still have feelings, like especially the black community, they always feel that way, that, hey, I have to be slowed down, or they're scared, they're scared because they think they're the time.
False narrative.
Yeah, I said to them, no, we should stop this. We should not be talking about discrimination. I'm Filipina, okay, but I become American citizen. I still have Americans discriminating me. My mother-in-law is white. I don't think she liked Asian either. I said, who cares?
Yeah.
White married black, black married white married black married Asian. What's the difference? Why we should stop this?
So, I'm going to go back to what we said earlier. We as society have changed. Hearts and minds of the people of America have changed. And
Correct.
every single person in the world has a bias. Whether they want to admit it or not,
A creed
they have bias.
a political
Period.
bias.
Political bias, exactly what you're saying. Political bias against you because you drive a Hummer versus a Prius. Everybody has it.
Cultural bias.
I don't know, but anyway, Sheriff, sorry for you waited for almost 30 minutes and seeing us, and I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to hear your side about this. And I agree with you because we should have the rights to carry concealed weapons to protect us. What about if all the guns are banned? According to Iran, I watch this because I watch almost every day. He said, my bad people is inside America already.
Oh yeah.
That's Iranian who spoke.
The jihad.
The jihad.
Absolutely.
And I said, how are we going to protect ourselves if the bad guys is inside the US and we don't have the guns? Where are we going to run? Do you think so we can run to Sisula?
No, we're not going to
How far
run
do
this.
you get? Where are we going to find?
Well, we could run to
A couple different things that I'm going to say on that. After Pearl Harbor, after Pearl Harbor, the man said, we can't invade the United States because behind every blade of grass is a gun. He wasn't worried about the military, he was worried about us. People. We the people, he was worried about us.
We want to keep it that way.
And we need to keep it that way. And citizens of Nevada need to stand up. And their voice needs to be heard. And it's our job to hold the government accountable
Yes, it
and
is.
hold them to that Constitution. And I say this, I'm part of the government. I get it. But first I'm a citizen. First I'm an American. That's what I am. Badge aside.
Well, I am with you, and I believe that if this thing is going to go and the rally is going to continue, and you guys put it into the rules, so I think it's going to be done or it's going to go back.
I think
You think so?
I do.
Well, not to mention, I think one of your buddies, he was with you, but I think he doesn't want to be with you. So what do you think about that?
Who's that?
Another sheriff.
Let me just say this. I can't speak for other sheriffs. I won't speak for other sheriffs, but I will say this. There's a clear and distinct difference in sheriffs that have their community's pulse and know what the community wants, and there's difference between that and politicians. You said this earlier. A sheriff, not a politician. I hate politics. If I didn't have to run for office, that'd be great. I hate politics. I hate politicians. Horse trailers are filled with one thing,
Brown stuff at the bottom.
political promises. That's all it is.
Well, I want to end in a good, I want you to send a message to the community, your community, Eureka, and to the community of Nevada. And can you please address your
So we
amendment?
the people have to stand up and let our voice be heard.
Yes.
We are all Americans. We're Nevadans. But we are the ultimate voice that runs government, and they need to listen to us. And your power is in the polls, your power is in
Especially getting out the vote.
getting out to vote and not being lazy and just saying, oh, it'll happen. My vote doesn't count. Yes, your vote does count. One vote is what changed my election from a primary election to a general election.
Wow.
I won with 50% and one vote.
Wow.
And every single person in my community that says, I'm the one that elected you, yes, you do. Because if it wouldn't have been them as a whole, I wouldn't have been elected.
I researched your community, you have only 610?
No, we have, so Eureka County's got about 2,500 right now. We've got a huge county, it's 4,180 square miles, but we have a very small living population there. Our main economic driver is the gold mines and agriculture. And the gold mines are in the northern part of the county, and the citizens, the workers will come from Elko and Lander County and the surrounding areas to go work at the mines. But regardless of the small population, we've got a big voice. And it's very common for us to be on the legislators, at the legislature, voicing our opinions and whatnot, or publicly like I've done with a letter to the governor. But every American and every Nevadan needs to do it. And don't be lazy. Get out and vote. That's where your voice is. That's where your power is. Call your legislators, call your senators, call your assemblymen all the time. Hold them to the fire. They work for us.
Sure. We're the one to make a decision who we want to be on the position.
They're our representatives. They need to listen to us. So.
Well, once again, Arielle Live TV, I want to say thank you to Sheriff Jesse Watts from Eureka, and who he is, a fighter, a father of three, a loving father of the community of Eureka, and fights for the rights, especially red flag gun.
Down with the red flag laws.
And thank you so much for being here with us.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jesse.
And safe drive. I know you guys are leaving early mornings, and I think you guys are having a good time. I thank you for wearing a uniform, and thank you for your service, and thank you for supporting the community. Thank you for fighting for the rights of the community, not just for you and for the people of the whole state of Nevada.
We have to.
And I hope you will meet one day the governor
Oh,
of
okay.
Nevada.
I highly doubt you will ever extend.
And you can
And we're all
I want to say
okay with
thank
that.
you
Don't
to
California or Nevada.
I want to say thank you to Andrew Sheriff, and I want to say thank you to the people who attended here, especially a new friend of mine. And do you have any questions to the sheriff?
Well, he covered my questions, but my questions are, how do you guarantee that these laws aren't abused? Because there is no guarantee of that.
Right. No,
And
absolutely.
that's one of my biggest concerns, and the statistics do state that most people who have gun violence in their, or on their record, sorry, I'm not saying the right words, actually did not receive the gun legally.
Correct.
So the majority of gun violence is committed with illegally received
The
weapons.
bad guys never get the memo. huh?
So
Right.
criminals by definition don't follow the law.
That is correct.
So what are we doing to change that? Adding another one that they don't listen to? That's asinine. That doesn't make sense,
I agree.
and it's not right. As I said earlier, we have plenty of laws in place to facilitate pretty much the exact same outcome. Do I think red flag laws could be useful? Yeah, I do, if it's done right. If there's due process element. If there's a way for both sides to be heard before we ever talk about touching guns. Before we ever talk about sending my guys, my men and women that work for me, into a house. How many people have to die because of laws like this? You can do your own research. Maryland had an officer-involved shooting, and the homeowner was killed for a red flag law. They were going to seize guns, and they ended up killing him.
How many officers died?
How many officers, exactly? How many officers? Like I said earlier, Tyler Ingram, the DA for Elko County, said it. Regardless of this, nobody thought about us, law enforcement, having to go in to those houses and seize those guns. I'll tell you what, it's not going to happen in my house.
Right.
We'll fight for it.
Not on his watch.
Any questions? Do you have any questions to the sheriff?
I would like to say to the sheriff, I enjoyed your words, and I think you're very sincere, and good luck to you. You have my
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Dennis?
Yes, this has been seen in 162 countries, and yes, it's very impressive. We've got a lot of people asking questions, but I just want to say a very, very good show. Very to people.
Nice.
Thank you.
Good job, Arielle.
And thank you ever so kindly. Actually, you're speaking so eloquently and so honorably about what it is that you've experienced, what it is that you went through. Listening to your knowledge of how, you just protected not only yourself and your family, but your community. And how now, here on Arielle Live Television, you speak about the protection of the people as a whole. So I just want to say I'm honored and I appreciate you so very much. And continue to keep up the great work.
Thank you, Stanley. We're going to bring Big Mike. What do you think about the red flag? Do you have any comment about that?
I think the sheriff's done a great job.
So that you can be in the camera.
I think the sheriff's done a great job, honestly. It's been very informative. I think a lot more people need to open up their eyes and listen and see what's going on. Can't thank you enough for coming tonight.
Thank you, Mike.
Hope a lot of people.
Wonderful food.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
I was
that.
gonna say, maybe we'll do a barbecue and voter registration pretty soon.
It's funny, we just had 2 Air Force guys come in to pick up an order, and folks such as yourselves and them are the reason why we're blessed to be able to do what we do. We live in the greatest country in the world, and we're only able to do what we do because we do have those freedoms that are protected by people like yourselves, and that try to look out for those of us who don't maybe realize some of these laws that are being passed and things that are being put in place that I don't think people often understand what all's involved. Right? They just hear it and think it's just, they just got to kind of go with it. And nothing that's worth fighting for is not worth, speaking up and letting your voice be heard, so to speak.
Yep.
So I really appreciate the fact that you're fighting the fight that you're fighting. I think it's very commendable.
Thank you, Mike.
Well,
Thank you, Big Mike. That's wonderful. Under Sheriff, is there anything you can actually share? Are you backing up the sheriff? Are you actually into this?
Am I backing up the sheriff? Only for about the last 30 years. I'm very blessed that the sheriff and I started our career in law enforcement together. We have a lot of the same views, and we also have a lot of views that don't align with each other. And I think that's one of the reasons why he brought me to Nevada, is because I'm not afraid to tell him no, and I'm not afraid to tell him when he's wrong, or when I believe he's wrong. But this issue, him and I are very neck and neck with each other. We agree wholeheartedly, and the sheriff said it just plain as anybody can. Our job is here to protect the Constitution. We are here to protect the Constitution as people. We need to stand up, and we need to make sure we hold our government accountable. And the sheriff flat out said, we are not against a red flag law as long as it's done right. And the failure of due process is the reason why that law does not work. It is not constitutionally right to go in and seize somebody's firearms without due process. The other plug I want to give you is I got this amazing hat when I got here. It says, "Bring America Together Again." I think that really says a lot, and that's definitely a cause that we can get behind as well.
Correct. I thank you for that. I think you're right. I think people misunderstood. That's why in Virginia they had that big rally, because I think the way they write the bill probably is different, that they can really take away that you don't have a right anymore. So.
Well, God gave it to us. No politician can take it from us.
Absolutely. Endowed liberties.
All right, and thank you so much, and you can do your shout out, share.
I just want to say thank you to everybody in Eureka, everybody watching, I appreciate it. Get out and vote, get out and get educated. Look into these laws that they're passing before they pass them. Be at the legislature, be at the remote campuses, be the people that can hold government accountable and make Nevada battle-born again. We are, we're a battle-born state for a reason. And we're not going to,
And we're last defense against California.
well, let's not even go there. But, we're battle-born for a reason. It's the reason why we're fighting the fight. And we're gonna keep it up.
Thank you so much, under sheriff. What is under sheriff anyway?
He's my boss and I'm everybody else's boss.
Okay, so you're just a
Under
sidekick.
sheriff is the second command of the agency.
Oh, sidekick.
Yep.
Okay, sidekick. Go ahead, say hello to.
Well, I wasn't expected to be put on the spot, but we wouldn't be here without the loving supports of our family, and we wouldn't be here without the great support of our great community that we have the very honor and pleasure to work for. Like the sheriff said, we work for the community doesn't work for us. We serve the citizens of Eureka County.
Nice.
And the sheriff, unbeknownst to him, I think he's starting to more serve the citizens of the great state of Nevada.
Yes.
And thank you so much. Now you can undress, you can undress, and you can relax in your
Get out
hotel
of the uncomfortable
breathe.
uniform.
And we will come and visit you and cook
Sounds great.
in your station.
Sounds great.
Thank you so much,
Thank you,
Andrea.
guys.
Thank you so much. We love you and we will visit you. And don't go away, we will be right back. We will bring you the owner, the general manager of Rolling Smooth Barbecue, sponsored by them, no other than Ignite. Hold on a second. I want to say goodbye to you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Love you. Thank you so much.